Were you ever relieved when your accountability partners didn't expect you to do better?
I gave myself some degree of benefit of the doubt that I don't need to tell them how bad it was. I made it sound better than it actually was.
See, I remember telling that, man. I feel like this is the good old boy network. We're going to get together and talk 5 minutes on sobriety, maybe, and then let Jay shoot the breeze.
I typically tell guys, you have 24 hours to tell your wife.
Welcome to the Couple Cure. Here's Jay and Lori Pyatt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode. I'm Jay.
I'm Lori. And today's topic has to do with the fact that some addicts think, I really didn't want to get sober, and my accountability partners made that really easy. So today we're going to cover 11 questions for Jay around that topic. Were you ever relieved when your accountability partners didn't expect you to do better?
I was in accountability because I wanted somebody to talk to me and try to pull me, in a direction. I can't say I was relieved. I'm glad it was not a shaming or very attacking situation.
Okay, question number 2. What kind of responses did they have? Did any of them respond with, well, none of us can really get sober? Because I know that one of them actually said that to me. One of your accountability partners did. They said that whenever I brought up your lack of sobriety.
Huh.
So I guess that's 2 questions. What kind of responses did they have? And did any of them say, none of us can really get sober?
I don't remember it in the last accountability that I had before 2006.
So when I say you've already answered it, in your first answer, didn't you say something like relapses happen?
Yeah, I remember somebody saying, yes, relapses happen, but not like none of us can get sober and you're just going to relapse, but
okay,
they can happen.
Because one of those guys are the ones who said it to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that being, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
He was like, I can only get 6 months myself.
Huh.
Number 3, did your addiction interpret their responses as permission?
Possibly. I don't think I walked away from there thinking, oh, these guys are just telling me to do what I want to do. Because when I've called a guy out on a relapse and he's like, yeah, I had a bit of a slip. The third time he said I had a bit of a slip, I'm like, I think you're in active addiction again. And you need, if you are going to get out of that, you need to do something different. But I didn't have anybody challenge me in that way.
Were there times where you were slipping 3, 4 times and nobody ever said, I think you're in active addiction? Like this is no longer a slip.
That group shut down before 2006. That was part of the problem.
Right.
I wasn't in any kind of active addiction at that time. And I can't remember when I first started meeting with
that group
of 3, but I might have had some interactions with one of them prior to that where it was kind of like, okay, well, keep trying. But no, nobody between 2000 and 2006, I don't think anybody had a you're in active addiction response.
I remember it wasn't after the big relapse in 2006, but before that, when we were in the apartment, you had been meeting with that same person. After I found out, I was like, you're my pastor too.
Right.
How could you not have asked Jay to tell me he was in active addiction? So he didn't press you back then?
No, not really.
Ooh, okay.
Not to my remembrance, but again, we're talking a long time.
So number 4, did you ever not confess to your accountability group or change your answers depending on who was holding you accountable?
I made it sound better than it actually was. I don't remember outright saying, no, nothing's going on when something was, but I also gave myself some degree of benefit of the doubt that I don't need to tell them how bad it was.
Number 5, how did you feel about yourself after those soft accountability sessions?
Right.
Was there part of you that was like, haha, I fooled them too?
No, because I don't think I was giving them such a whitewash version that they didn't know something was going on. But at the same time, I walked away from it going, this may not really be helping me. This doesn't feel like help if I'm not being, somebody's not saying to me, I get that you're struggling. I think you can do better, or pushing me a little bit. I just walked away from it going, okay, apparently this guy knows what he's talking about, but I'm not being challenged.
Do you think you would have been more challenged if you had opened up with more of the truth? about how bad things were? Because again, I noticed that that side of you was saying it's on somebody else. They should have known to ask the right questions. Let me go back to my initial question.
Right.
Do you think they would have pressed you more and been more of help if you had been more honest about how bad things were?
Maybe, because later as things progressed, when I was still meeting with that person prior to it breaking up, and one of them was struggling, neither one of them really had a hard response at that point either. So I don't know if it would have been man, you got to get your act together. I don't think it would have been anything really significant earlier if later it wasn't that significant.
Maybe because they had no clear path out.
Possibly. I think, as we discussed, that person had their own struggles and didn't have a great deal of sobriety and it really had nothing to offer, I don't think.
Okay. Number 6, did you see this was wanting people to tickle your ears at the time? Did you realize what felt like grace was really enabling?
No, I didn't. I mean, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it was enabling. I was trusting somebody that I saw in a position of leadership, saw had, was offering something, and didn't think of them as that type of, of just to say, yeah, it's fine. I didn't feel like they were that soft touch. And at the same time, I don't think I would have realized it as he's enabling me so that he can enable himself or anything like that.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. If he goes light on you, then... See, I remember telling that man, it's like, I feel like this is the good old boy network where you guys get together and it's like, we're not going to push each other very hard. We're going to get together and talk 5 minutes on sobriety, maybe, and then let Jay shoot the breeze. So I hadn't thought about that. So part B is, do you now see that you were kind of wanting people to tickle your ears back then?
I wanted somebody to go easy on me. I wanted a path to recovery, a very kind of easily executed. It wasn't just come in and smack you over the head and you need to get your stuff together, because we had somebody that tried that. But I did appreciate or enjoy or lean into the fact that they weren't pushing me real hard.
Did any of them ever get solid recovery?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
One of them did.
Oh, the kind guy?
Yeah, the third
Okay.
person.
Number 7, what do you wish your accountability partners would have done instead?
Acknowledging change is hard. That's one of the things that I do with guys is, you've been doing this for a big chunk of your life. If they acknowledge change is hard and they say, we expect change, and we're going to sit with you and call you higher instead of just meeting this once a week meeting. I'm going to call you during the week. I'm going to, I'm going to be a little bit more of a pest than just waiting for you to show up at a meeting. Yes, we acknowledge change is hard, but we step into add one more day, or, try this instead, or I'm going to call you at this point, or...
I know that they said, like, what triggers you. I thought they meant, is going down certain magazine aisles triggering certain movies, but did they ever go to, like, what feelings trigger you? What situations? What stressors?
Not really. I don't remember them saying what part of this grocery store or what part of this or that is a trigger, because it was my computer, or being on the computer. It wasn't until we went to our therapist who started talking about, like, what do the holidays look like and some of those kind of things. So
that's interesting, because even I knew, like, okay, what are your stressors? What causes you to...
Right. I knew I was an addict. I knew I had a problem, but I was not doing any kind of work to find out more, other than going to somebody who also struggles, who has some degree of knowledge, and thought, okay, they're going to help me with this, because most of the guys in my past, before meeting him, either didn't have the problem or didn't acknowledge having a problem. So it was kind of like, okay, I'm the odd fish here. Or I just see that person as one of God's flowers, and I move on. As kind of like, okay, that's not helpful.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Number 8. What would you have done if they had given you, how does it feel to be enslaved to that? Or let me know when you're truly ready to outgrow that.
Right. I know there was a part of me that wanted to leave this. I wasn't just going so I could hang out with these guys. Not every meeting was just recovery, and it wasn't just nothing but shooting the breeze. It was like, I do want help. I do want, we had breakdowns by then. That's the reason why I started talking to him. So I would have gladly taken that balanced help. We reached out to somebody prior to moving here that absolutely attacked me over it all. And that was not helpful. But if I had had somebody who said, look, there's some scriptures about being stubborn, there's some ways you can possibly change, I think I would have been open to that. If I had met the guy who is my current mentor at that point, and he had said those kind of things, heck yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think you would have gotten further in your recovery with somebody who said those kind of things than kind of nothing but grace? And
yeah, I wouldn't say it was nothing but grace, but I didn't leave there feeling like I was being challenged either. There's a place of finding kind of that right, degree, and I was looking for somebody to help me. And I know as an addict that sometimes I really didn't want to quit. Probably the response that a lot of addicts have of, well, that's not going to work for me.
there's 2 ways of saying that. The current way is like, it's not going to work for me, I'm moving on.
Right.
Or was it more like the tools you have aren't going to work for me?
Right. I'm special. If you knew my past, if you knew this, if you knew that. And of course, the guy that I'm talking about would have been able to pull all of that apart pretty quickly. I had somebody who had very limited exposure trying to help me and was really not helping himself, where my current mentor was. Yeah.
Just to be clear, his current mentor has decades of...
He's got 40 years clean and sober.
From some pretty heavy stuff. So, Number 9, bigger question. What do you think would have happened if you had been put out of the church? Because of, not necessarily this, but because of the abuse that it led to in the home.
I definitely think it would have gotten my attention. It would have shown me that there are people who are committed to helping other people change in a way that says we're much more concerned about the care of the people in the church than the image of the church itself. We wouldn't do that because then people would see us as a church that, we put people out. I believe there are churches that are that way. They would much rather just say to you, well, you need to forgive him and move on. That way the church doesn't potentially get called out in public by the guy that gets put out and goes to the newspaper or whatever.
Number 10, what do you now believe accountability should look like? Like, is passive accountability worse or better than none at all?
I definitely think passive accountability is worse because it gives a guy permission to, relapses happen or whatever, and nobody seems to be able to get free.
When you took over leadership, did you start seeing guys get freer?
I did, because I think one guy, he kind of looked at me and he said, well, if this guy can do it. And he found significant sobriety, got more than a year, and then moved on to something else.
And this was not because you were giving him a ton of tools?
Nope.
Just because you were sober?
Yeah.
Leaders of accountability groups?
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Sobriety does breed sobriety. Now, I don't think we ran that group for 18 months, something like that. I probably saw 100 guys come through that would be there for a week and leave. They just did not want overall sobriety, which is pretty common. Out of those 100 guys that came through, 10 were pretty consistent. 3, besides me, found any kind of significant sobriety.
And that's pretty typical as far as like what the surveys show, that typical approaches can get anywhere from like 2 to 10% recovery
Right.
rate.
Yeah.
Jay has a higher rate, I'm just saying.
Yeah. I do allow crosstalk, and I do,
You do have tools, and you do.
Right.
They're coming to you saying, help, like fix me, which is
Right.
not the focus of a 12-step group.
True.
What do you now believe real accountability should look like?
Setting some clear goals. One of the clear goals that I set is porn and masturbation are slips. I think you can go without slipping. There is a place to say, I get it. You're still trying to change. You're navigating some things that you haven't navigated before. I know you can do this because I know a whole bunch of guys that have done this. Prior to starting our program, I was one of a couple of guys that I knew that had more than a year of sobriety. Now, I know guys that have 6, 8, 10 years of sobriety. It's possible. It's not an impossibility for really anybody, but it also takes a willingness to step in when somebody has started to fall back and say, I see this, and this. You're welcome to keep coming to the group, but I'm going to keep calling out the fact that you're in active addiction. I want to see you change. I want you to have that freedom. I typically tell guys, you have 24 hours to tell your wife. I will not be the guy that says, oh, well, yeah, he told me, but I wasn't going to, I told one guy that, and he said, I'll quit. And I said, I don't care. I'll still call her.
And they sign a paper. When they sign up with Jay, they know.
Yeah.
If they've read the contract, then they know
Right.
that can happen.
And the one guy I challenged that way, he told his wife, and that was the turning. I was one of a couple of conversations that was a huge turning point for him, and within 6 months, he graduated.
Oh. Number 11, if you could speak to those accountability partners now, what would you say about how their approach impacted you?
I feel like they let me down. If they had said, look, we want you to have sobriety. My sobriety is I'm struggling with it. You know what? If I'm not able to help you, let's go find you somebody else, or let's try something different. It was helpful to hear that I wasn't the only messed up person in the world, but it ultimately, I think, let me down from faith in recovery to see that there was a possibility.
I think the polite thing I would say, number one, the guy who did find long-term sobriety, good for you. Good for you. I know your heart for God. I know it was clear. It was evident in the way you lived. And then I found out that you were free of porn. So good for you. To the other, I would say you could have looked up some tools. There were ways of getting free. So my questions for you are, for the betrayed partners, what do you think accountability looks like in recovery? And for the addicts, what could an accountability partner have said that would have pierced through the fog for you? And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit subscribe, like, and the bell. Then you'll be notified whenever we put out new videos.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.